Welcome to the P.A.S. Report podcast. If you're tired of censorship, outraged by government abuses, and thirsty for real insights, then you're in the right place. Get ready, because here, the fight for freedom never ends. Here's your host, Professor Nick Giordano.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the P.A.S. Report podcast. This is your host, Nick Giordano. I'm glad you could join me today. Make sure you follow and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Also, visit the P.A.S. Report website, pasreport.com, and share this episode with your family and friends. I have a great guest coming on today. I have a friend, John Fawcett, host of The Great America Show. I've known John for several years. He knows politics. He understands what's going on. John, welcome to the program. How are you today?
Nick, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. I know politics as much as I want to. I wish I didn't know as much. I'd probably be a lot happier, Nick, being honest with you, if I was a gardener somewhere, relaxing.
Well, I tell my students that. You got like 40% of the students that are conservative or Republican, 40% that are Democrat or liberal progressive, and then 20% that have no idea what's going on out there. But they're the happiest ones out of everyone. That's the amazing part, because
right.
When you pay attention to politics, it will drive you nuts. You'll end up like me with no hair. Now, Trump's been in office about a month and a half, almost 2 months now. What are your thoughts so far on the lightning pace at which he's going at?
First of all, I got to address your 20% because it's so true. You know, I still meet people today who I'll meet a girl out at a bar somewhere. In full transparency, I'm single, so I'm allowed to do that. But
so, ladies, keep that in mind.
So I'll go out to a bar and we'll talk about, do you like Trump? That's always my first question, because then that dictates where you're going to go. You hate Trump. The people who don't like Trump, Nick, they hate him so much, so there's like no point in wasting your time. And the amount of people you have who are just like, I don't care. And I'm like, how do you not care? We're in such a polarized society right now, polarized civilization, that it's insane. Now to your point about President Trump moving at a lightning speed, Nick, I couldn't have imagined he was going to move like this. Day one, we had ICE in Chicago, in New York, raiding out these places. Tom's been planning for this job for the last 4+ years on how he's going to navigate.
I think Tom has a war room in his basement where he's all over the place, like Absolutely. For 4 years.
Yeah. So President Trump, now he's entering this tariff fight. And you know what? It's not good. It's not good for us who have 401ks and stock markets. But the way I look at it, and everyone I speak to with a brain with a triple-digit IQ, Nick, it's a long war. It's a long war that was a long time in the coming. That had to be had. We have a ballooning debt, Nick, that has not stopped. I mean, we're going to blow through $40 trillion here in just a few years. At what point does it stop? What do you do to finally get this thing to stop? So he's moving at lightning speeds on absolutely everything. All his nominees getting through. I would like to see some people work a little harder. I'm not saying Pam Bondi, but there are some people I think who have to start doing a better job. And the way I look at this administration, Nick, you either have to put out or get out, because we don't have time. It's only 4 years to make this country great again. And if you're not on board from day one, if everything you do isn't America first, make America great again, you got to go. I'm sorry.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. I mean, first of all, I share the whole Pam Bondi thing. I mean, when she was first announced, one of the things that worried me is that you need a pit bull as an attorney general. Yeah. You need someone that's going to go in there and show the bureaucracy who's boss. Otherwise, the bureaucrats will eat you up and they'll spit you out. They'll work to undermine you from day one. And I haven't seen the strength from her to really take on the bureaucracy in the way it needs to be taken on. Luckily, over at the FBI, you have Kash Patel, Dan Bongino in there. So that's a different story. But I want to talk about tariffs for a minute, because I think that's an important story. I just released an episode talking about how long will Americans stay with Trump, right? I mean, Americans are short-term thinkers, and I'm not trying to insult the American people. It's just the nature of the beast right now. And the second that Americans start to feel a little bit of pain, are they going to bail on him and say, you know what, it's too much, it's not worth it?
Yeah, I just saw polling out this morning from Mark Mitchell and from Rasmussen, and Trump's numbers, Nick, this is like defies absolutely everything in politics what President Trump has done, whether it be surviving the assassination attempts, coming back to do essentially what's a third term after 2020. He's defied at all odds. His poll numbers continue to go through the roof. Now, you had mentioned the lightning speed. As soon as he started doing the deportations, I figured, Americans are going to start to feel bad. They're going to start feeling a little buyer's remorse, and his poll numbers are going to go down. They've only went up as he's continued to do, as I use mass deportations because it seems to be the biggest thing the administration has done so far. I don't think they're going to give up on Trump, and it's the reason being what I said before. It's a long war, and if President Trump plays...
But is it really a long war? I was talking to a colleague today about the, 1920s and the tariffs, the war that took place then, but the world is dramatically different.
Yeah.
I mean, the United States is the dominant power. We've been losing power and influence for years since 2005. There's no doubt about that. But let's be honest, in the 1920s, how many foreign countries relied on the United States? Today, most of them do. And so can Canada really wait out the United States or Mexico or any other country? Or do they kind of need the United States and they're going to have to capitulate kind of soon?
Absolutely. That's the truth of the matter, is, Nick. Our number one export is crude petroleum. So that's fine. If you don't want to buy crude petroleum from us, and the next biggest export of ours is refined petroleum. So that's the stuff you're putting in your cars, you're putting in your airplanes. So that's fine. You want to play tough guy, you want to play gangster, that's fine. And you know what a lot of people, and this is what I wish the Trump administration would start to let out to the American people and explain it a little bit better, because I think it'll tune the American people's minds a little bit differently. This is a war because of what they've done to us. Now, the only reason Donald Trump gets a bad rap for it is because he does it out on the public stage. I attribute it to like silent torture from Canada and from these other countries. They tariff us on all these goods that we bring in, we bring into this country. It's only right, Nick. Nothing in life is absolutely free. So to answer your question, yes, they have no choice. I read this morning, Australia and the United Kingdom will not do anything in retaliation to President Trump's retaliatory tariffs. And it's a smart thing to do. It's reciprocal tariffs. Now, on Canada and Mexico, it's a little bit different because of the immigration problem we have, because of the drug problem we have. That's a fight that needs to be had. That needs to be had. 100,000 people is far too many. And 100,000, by the way, is a complete understatement, because that 100,000 only accounts for people who are autopsied, who we know what they died from. Now you figure a family member who has someone died who they know he overdosed or she overdosed. They don't do an autopsy because they've already dealt with enough pain in their lives. So we don't know how they died. They just went down or whatever, natural cause. I don't know what they put it down as. But it's probably 2 or 3 times the number. It's the same thing with the illegal immigration number. So it's a fight that needs to be had. Canada wants to play tough guy. Mexico wants to play tough guy. It's going to be very short-lived. As for those countries, I think I give it probably a month max. You look at what Ford did with the electric tariff. President Trump came back and said, that's fine, 50% tariff on all steel. You want to play ball? And then within 2 hours, he called off. One more thing I want to hit on. We haven't run a trade plus, Nick, in this country since 1975. What does that mean? That means every single year, exports exceed imports. So vice versa. So in other words, we cannot make our own things here. We rely on everyone else to bring in. That needs to change. Whether it be automobile parts. There's some things I understand we have to offshore. Textiles, I understand, will never come back to America. That's fine. But let's look at a place in South America where we can start making textiles instead of going to Thailand and Taiwan and China. First of all, shipping routes will be far easier to get to from South America and from Mexico than it is right now from China. And we'll be doing a good deed, because I believe if we can help Mexico build up their country, if we can help Panama build up their country, and all these countries down south, El Salvador, if we can help them build up their own countries, Nick, they're going to want to stay there with their families. They're going to want to stay home with their families and make money in their own country. The truth of the matter is these Mexican folks and all these people who come here, they don't want to come to America. They come because they need to, because they need jobs.
Yeah, and I think you brought up something important, and you've been in the media a long time, so you understand the importance of messaging and narratives. Do you think the Trump administration is missing out on an opportunity, not explaining why is it fair all these countries get to tariff American products, but yet we're not allowed to introduce tariffs on their products?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And as I said, I think the messaging is off. If he came out and whether he or Howard Lutnick, I don't think it should be Elon Musk. He's dealing with his own problems right now, and I love the man to death. But if one of these guys came out and explained and broke down on a chart something very simple, this is what X charges us, this is what Y charges us, this is what we're charging them. The American people know nothing in life is free, okay? If you could explain it to the faction of that, I think they'll understand a lot better, because they're pretty on board right now. I spoke to a good friend this morning who was a lifelong Democrat who's now a Republican. And he says, you know what? If this is going to bring inflation down, if this is going to bring the prices of housing down and all that stuff, let it be done. Let it be done. And you know what? Wall Street, I hate to see it, but you know what? They ruined America, Wall Street. So now it's their time to take a hit. It's time for Main Street America to start making some money. And that's those factory workers out in Dearborn, Michigan, those factory workers out in Ohio. It's time for the American human being, that blue collar worker, to bring home a livable salary to live on. And you know what? Wall Street can wait a little while.
Well, let's look at Wall Street. So you do have Elon Musk living the Doge, leading the Doge effort to find the waste, fraud, and abuse within government. We know approximately 3,500 government contracts have already been canceled out. We know that there's many more that will be canceled out. And this is something that I applaud. I've been calling for the downsizing of government for a long time. I've been calling out the way I was Doge before there was a Doge in my classroom. And I've been calling out the waste, fraud, and abuse. But when we look at Wall Street, the number of companies that just live off the government largesse, right? Yep. They just live and mooch off the federal system. Isn't that going to hurt corporate earnings to a certain degree?
It absolutely is. And you know what, Nick, that's something that nobody's talking about. I spoke about it the other day on my show, and you're the only other person I've heard mention it. When you're cutting $1 trillion out of the GDP, out of the budget, of course it's going to take hits. So is the market collapsing a little bit? Is it in correction territory? Yes, of course it is. But it's not just because of the tariff fight. It's because the government, for the first time in our lifetime, we're seeing them try to cut a deficit. So when you're taking $1 trillion out of the deficit, of course it's going to hurt the country. Of course it's going to hurt it. But you know what? In the long run, we'll be okay. We'll start paying down this debt. That's why when they came out and said $5,000 checks for Doge, I thought it was extremely dumb and irresponsible. We have a debt to pay.
Agreed.
$5,000, if you put it in the pocket of the average American. Now, granted, some Americans are going to take that and pay off their credit card debt, because credit card debt is through the roof right now in America, especially among the elderly, which is a very big problem. Property taxes among the elderly, it's terrible. If you take that money and you put it back into the economy, you drive this thing up. Giving $5,000 checks to people, I'm sorry, folks, for you people who are very angry and tuning out right now, it's not the best course forward in the long run. Well,
and we have recent evidence, right? You know, those stimulus checks during the coronavirus felt good as they were coming in, but the American people paid back the stimulus 4 times over because of the inflation it caused. So I'm with you. I'd much rather the $5,000 checks just go to pay down our national debt as opposed to just give out money. To me, that doesn't make sense. When we look at this effort, though, I mean, the Democrats seem to have lost their mind.
Yes.
And Chuck Schumer, our great senator from New York, the moron that he is, he came out a couple of weeks ago stating, of course there's waste in government. Everyone knows there was waste in government, but you don't tackle it with a sledgehammer. You got to use a scalpel. And I'm sitting there like, you've been there for 30 years and you haven't lifted a finger to do a damn thing about it. The Democrats, one thing they're good at is actually demonizing other people. So you see the demonization of Elon Musk going on, and as a result, we're seeing terrorism, because it's a clear-cut definition of terrorism. They're targeting Tesla stations, Tesla electrical, the chargers, and we're seeing attacks, gunshots, Molotov cocktails. What are your thoughts on these lunatics that are running around attacking Tesla dealerships, but not just dealerships? They're also attacking individuals that drive Teslas, unless those individuals like put on a bumper sticker, I don't like Elon Musk.
Yep. I actually want to read you a text right now that I got from a friend this morning about a guy who owns a Cybertruck. Neil's friend owns a Cybertruck. He's selling it because people are harassing him. Dog crap on his car, throwing stuff at it, trying to destroy his car. Now, this is in Staten Island, New York, which is the most conservative place in New York City. And these people are doing this. They're not rational people, Nick. These people are a lot of them are paid agitators from Antifa and BLM and all these factions. Probably a little less from BLM now, more so Antifa. They're paid by the likes of George Soros. We know that from times in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case now. We've hit a new low in society. People, the mental health. A buddy of mine looks at Google Trends all the time. And if you look at the Google Trends on people on anti-anxiety, anti-depression medications, it's through the roof. And it's hard to believe, because we put up with Joe Biden for 4.5 years. Now, I came on this show every single day, and the great Lou Dobbs, we came on the show every day, and we hit the man, and we dealt with it in the public domain, and we dealt with it responsibly. None of us were going out, burning down cars, going to Delaware, destroying his stuff, doing things like that. Hunter Biden, nobody went after him.
Attacking visiting angels, because essentially that's what the White House was.
Right. So the Democrats have a way about going things, and this is only 2 months in now. The only problem this time is, you'd mentioned New York. Mayor Eric Adams, at least for the foreseeable future, is on Team Trump. So I don't think we're going to put up with this stuff in New York. And the other day we saw it, arresting people in New York for destroying his dealership and defacing his dealership. It's totally pathetic. These people are total losers. And most of them are young kids who are ruining their lives. I came out on the show the other day and I said, congratulations, you got your video, you got your arrest, send it to your parents because they failed as parents. You guys are losers. That's not how you deal. And the sad thing, isn't it?
And they're not bright because they'll put their faces right on camera and post it.
Right. Well, some of them are the cowards. They wear the face masks, right? But a lot of these kids go to Ivy League schools. And I often joke, some of the dumbest people I've ever met, some of the dumbest people I know went to Ivy League schools. I don't think schooling dictates, by the way, who you are. I know a lot of smart people who didn't go to college. I know a lot of smart people who went to community colleges, smarter than people that went to these Ivy League schools. So I don't think because you do well in standardized testing, that dictates who you are. We had Barack Obama, an Ivy League graduate, who's perhaps one of the dumbest presidents we've ever had in this country. Hunter Biden, another Ivy League graduate. Now, there are some who make it out alive. The great Lou Dobbs went to Harvard, and to this day, the smartest man I've ever met. I want to go back to USAID because Marco Rubio said they're cutting about 83% of what they found in fraud. And you have to imagine, why are these people going so crazy? What bone did they pick? What bone did they strike in these people's heart? And I think they're getting a little terrified because he's going to start going through the IRS because these people have made money. It's ill-gotten gains. They've made money from places they were not supposed to make money from. Now, I'm not going to make any accusations, but I think time will tell where a lot of these people were making their money from.
But it's not just that. I mean, I've spoken for the last several years about the corruption, the absolute corruption within our government, where you have all this money, trillions of taxpayer dollars that are going out to fund, quote unquote, nonprofits. But they're not really nonprofits. They're far left activist organizations that are set up to push a far left messaging, far left agenda. And they also work with subgroups, sub-agencies. So they'll get the government grant, they'll then pay themselves and then give the rest of the grant money to other agencies to perform any duties. It's a whole scam to fund the left-wing ecosystem, and it certainly needs to be investigated. Do you foresee a lot of criminality within the government, not just under a Democrat administration? This has been going on for the last couple of decades. Like, since when have nonprofits not done anything?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I say this all the time. I don't care if it's Republicans or Democrats. I'm not sitting here and I'm not going to be a sycophant for Republicans because there's Republicans out there who are just as corrupt, if not more corrupt than the Democrats. Lindsey Graham, for one, total warhawk monger. John Bolton, another one who calls himself a Republican. George Bush. You've had these people who've gotten us into endless wars, probably getting money on the backside of things, and they've paid no prices. Now, you had mentioned these non-for-profits. I think we're going to see a massive, massive investigation into, I'll name two of the biggest ones, the Catholic Charities of America and the Red Cross. Both of them have had stations on the border for the last 8+ years, helping illegals. If you go right now to the Catholic Charities of New York website, it tells you on there if you're an illegal alien, how they can help you, how they can get you lawyers, how they can get you out of trouble if you're being sought out by ICE and all these other people. That's criminal behavior. You're harboring illegals in this country who are here illegal. In some cases, you're harboring domestic terrorists. It's a word you heard from the Democrats a lot, domestic terrorists, also known as school board parents. So these non-for-profits...
And traditional Catholics.
Right, and traditional Catholics. So these non-for-profits, these NGOs, have for years, and this is not something new, years, been involved, been entrenched in absolute crazy, crazy stuff. I want to bring up something because I interviewed him the other day, and I think you should definitely have him on your show. Mike McCormick, he's got this new book out. I don't know if you could see it on there, An Insurmountable Evil, and I just finished reading it. And he goes into how the Biden administration, how the Catholic Charities, how the Catholic Church and the Pope, along the way, have helped harbor illegals, helped cover up the China virus, help attribute to the China virus. These are criminal acts by criminal organizations as far as I'm concerned. I don't care if it's the Catholic Church or not. If you're a criminal, you're a criminal. I don't care if it's the same thing with the Epstein list, Nick. I don't mean to go off into a tangent. Well, there may be Republicans on there. If Donald Trump's on there, I want to know. I don't care. I'm not sitting here trying to cover up for pedophiles. The worst predators in this world, in my opinion, with the exception of terrorists, are pedophiles.
You're talking about a thing called integrity. It doesn't matter if it's Republican. We want to expose the corruption. I want to know if any of these nonprofits, if any family members to members of Congress sit on the boards of these nonprofits and are getting drawing salaries from these nonprofits, like Sheldon Whitehouse's spouse is doing, 2.5 million taxpayer dollars, by the way. But I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican. If we find money being funneled to a nonprofit, and any of those subcontractors, if there's any family members there as well, we need to know about it. It needs to be exposed. The Epstein list needs to be exposed. The JFK files, expose it all. That's the only way you fix this mess is transparency. Right. Yet it seems like a lot of people, they don't want to see the ugliness that exists.
You know, the funny thing is, Nick, is this is all going to be uncovered by like 5 21-year-old kids who are sitting in a Doge office with a damn regular laptop. Right. You know, it's so insane to think we've had thousands. The federal government obviously is the largest employer of people in this country. And just to think that there's going to be a day coming very soon where the federal government will no longer be the largest employer of people in this country, it just makes my heart feel so good, because this company is built by private sector employees, whether it be Amazon.com, or I think Walmart's the number 2 largest employer in the world. But to think that we're going to see a day now where the federal government won't be the largest employer, it's so insane to me to see that Elon's got a team of, I think, 20 people who are working for him. And with simple computer algorithms, they're going to be able to see who got money, where the money came from. We don't need thousands of people to do this. We don't need millions of dollars to do this. These people are working on a government salary, not making more than $400,000 a year, which is probably 3.5 times what they're probably making. I assume some of them are probably making $70,000 to $80,000 a year. And these guys with simple computer algorithms, Nick, these 21-year-old geniuses who probably didn't go to Harvards and UPenns, these programmers, are going to figure out the fraud and waste and abuse inside this government, whether it be in the IRS or through these NGOs or USAID. And these people are running for the hills. You see at record numbers, Nick, Democrats not running for re-election. Today we saw, or last week we saw the senator from New Hampshire deciding not to run again for office. We're going to see a lot more of that over the next 2 years. And to me, it's not by coincidence. These people have been there for far too long to not hold that job until the day they die.
Yeah, and let's be honest. I mean, this is a problem that was created by Democrats, Republicans, and the American people for not actually holding government officials accountable, allowing the federal government to get this large, calling for federal involvement in like every single issue that exists out there. That's been a big criticism of mine. And when you look at the Democrats and Republicans that are in office, I mean, let's be honest here. If Musk isn't successful, you're never going to see a cut in government. You're never going to see them tackle waste, fraud, and abuse. Do you think this is like our only opportunity to make it happen?
Yeah, these next 4 years is an absolute crucial pivotal point for America. If Donald Trump didn't win this election, it was over, and there's nothing hyperbolic about that. They would have flooded this country with millions of more illegal aliens. They would have allowed them to vote, and a Republican would never win in this country again. That's exactly what they want to do. This is our last chance, absolutely, because if a Democrat gets in again right after Donald Trump, whether it be J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio, or now they're saying maybe Donald Trump Jr., Elon Musk has, I don't even think it's 4 years. He's probably got 2 years to really get this thing going, and he's moving at record pace. Look at what he's found out now in under 2 months. Imagine what we're going to know in 2 years.
Oh, I could only imagine. Again, this is something I go all the way back to when Senator Tom Coburn, God rest his soul, would go on the Senate floor and just read the ridiculous spending items. And that's when the money was actually appropriated by Congress. It wasn't the discretionary spending. But as the government goes, you know, now we're seeing the Department of Education begin to wind down its operations. Secretary McMahon laid off half the workers from the Department of Education. You have all these Democrats screaming. Why aren't they outraged by the abysmal student proficiency numbers, the failing of students to be able to read, write, and do math? They're not mad at that. They're outraged that a federal apparatus that has gotten itself deeply entrenched in academia is now being shut down because it's not performing. It's not achieving the mission that it was set out to do. In fact, it's failing and it's only gotten worse. And yet that's what they're mad about. Do you think Democrats are having a very difficult time on messaging to pick and choose what to fight back, what to push back against, and then when to just keep quiet or say, yeah, we got to get rid of the fraud and abuse?
Yeah, one of the main issues is the CR, the continuing resolution. The Democrats in the Senate know. This is the first time I've seen that I can remember that the Republicans won a budget battle, that the Democrats are going to support this thing and keep the government going because they know they're up for re-election. They're absolutely losing.
You don't want to have the Schumer shutdown if you're a Democrat.
Exactly. The Republicans find a way to own it every single time, like total idiots. It's not because the Democrats are smarter. It's because the Republicans are totally feckless. To the education issue, who would be against returning the power to the states? It'll be a more, I don't want to say privatized, but it'll be a more personalized experience to tailor the needs to the states. And you know what? If you want to send your kids to school in New York, where they're going to be indoctrinated and continue to have the lowest scores, that's fine. Maybe you'll pack up and you'll move down to Florida, or you'll move to Alabama, or you'll move out to Pennsylvania when they get a Republican governor.
Buddy, I'm stuck here. Let's take it easy with that.
No, but that's just the truth of the matter. And I mean, you do, I think, do a terrific job. And to me, as long as I know you, you don't sound like you care about ever losing your job because you're doing such a good job. Not that you can lose your job, but you don't care because you're doing the right thing for the American people. And it's like these teachers have no conscience. They don't care anymore. Our kids are increasingly getting dumber and dumber. And, you know, that's not a slight at America. It kills me inside to know that's the path that we're going down. I was talking to an economist the other day. They don't teach kids economics. I didn't learn economics, Nick, until I went to college. Now, if I didn't go to college, when would I have ever learned about economics? Instead,
it's ridiculous.
We're teaching kids earth science, things that presumably nobody's ever going to use in their life. Chemistry.
No, earth science is important too. They're all important.
No, but
put it this way. So I look at it from this perspective. I don't look at it the teachers. The teachers, some of them are a problem. I would say probably about 25 to 30% of them are dumb. They don't know the subject material. They should not be in the classroom. But you have about 70% of the teachers that are dedicated. However, their hands are tied. Yeah. They got the teachers union, which is a corrupt organization that has done more damage to the education. Randy Weingarten, right? That has done more damage to our education system than anyone else. But then a lot of people don't look at the state education boards, the ones that actually draw up the curriculums. Right. I teach at college, so I'm lucky where I have a lot of flexibility in what I teach and how I teach it. It's up to me. But when you look at a K through 12 system, you see that they have to teach this ridiculous nonsense. But even worse than that, they've been told that if a student disrespects you, if a student spits on you, if a student friggin' hits you, there's no consequences for that student. That you have parents where the kids have been absent for like 2 months from school, yet the teacher has no recourse and can't fail that student. I was listening to the radio the other day and I was hearing a story about how a girl who graduated with honors from a Connecticut high school is now suing her high school because she's illiterate. She can't do the college work. She's completely illiterate, can't really read or write. And so it's the entire system, the education system itself that has been corrupted, that needs to be abolished and rebuilt from the bottom up.
The way you mentioned writing, I didn't learn to write. I mean, I knew how to write, but I didn't learn to write until I got out of college, until I started working in media. Lou Dobbs, the first thing I wrote for him, he
gave you your grammatical lessons.
Oh, man, he absolutely annihilated me and abused me, and I was upset at the time. But if it wasn't for the great Lou Dobbs, I wouldn't have known how to write a damn script. I wouldn't have known how to write a story. And he taught every single person who worked for him. It's things you don't learn in college. And going back to my comments about saying earth science, what I think we need to do, Nick, is we need to start tailoring things down and make it more personalized. I had to take foreign language in class in high school and throughout my graduate studies. I will never use it. I speak English. I can go to 99% of the world, and they understand English. I have no interest, and that's just me personally, in learning French or Chinese. Chemistry, I had to take chemistry. I knew early on, I was never going into a field of chemistry. I did not need to learn the periodic table or things like that. I think what we need to do is we need to start tailoring educations, and by getting rid of the Department of Education ostensibly and returning power to the states, I think it'll allow these states to start creating programs inside of high schools where you know somewhat when you're in high school what you want to do. There's kids I went to high school with in a private school who knew they didn't want to go to college. So let's create programs where these kids can go learn HVAC. Let's learn programs because these blue-collar jobs are always going to be around. AI is not going to replace a heating and air conditioning tech, a plumber, an electrician, a car mechanic, which are in high demand right now. You know, you have these kids who we make them take French, we make them take Russian, we make them take Spanish and earth science and chemistry, knowing they're damn well never going to use it again in their life. Let's start tailoring these programs to help these kids be better off when they graduate high school, because a lot of kids are worse off when they're graduating high school now than when they get into high school, which is hard to believe as an eighth
and
grader.
require them to take courses that teaches them life skills. Like
Right.
every student should have to take a course in savings, investing, and compound interest. Every
Right.
school should have to take home economics and learn how to cook a damn meal or take a shop class. These should all be required courses because they're life skills that you could always use whether you go into the field or not. So I completely agree. What do you see happening over the course of the next 2 years within the United States? What do you think the Trump administration, because for the first time, I'm actually seeing unity from the Republican Party, which is absolutely shocking. How long do you think that lasts? And what do you see taking place?
I think in the next few months is probably going to be a little rough just based on the people I talk to, economics-wise, the stock markets. And as I said earlier, this is a time for Main Street to shine, the small businesses, inflation to be cut down, the prices of lettuce, the prices of eggs to start coming down, gas for your vehicles to start going down. And let Wall Street, they've had their times to shine. These people have made lots of money on the backs of the American people. It's time for the American small blue-collar worker, and I'll keep saying it, to shine. It's time for these people to start making the money they deserve to make because they built this country, and they're the reason this country sustains. So you know what? For the next, I don't know, the time period, whether it be 6 months, a year, so what if you can't buy a new car? Just hang it out. Let's not cave into this nonsense, importing car parts from Canada, which are like among the highest things from Mexico. Let's hold off on that. If they want to inflate things and they want to raise the prices on tariffs, that's fine. Let's not buy a new computer for 6 months or a year. Let's not buy a new car for 6 months or a year. Let's make these people feel the pain that the American people have been feeling for the last 4.5 years. Okay. So I think that's the first step. We need to just...
And they ignore the fear-mongering, people. It didn't work out with COVID so well with the fear-mongering.
Right.
Don't fall into that trap again.
If you have a 401k, if you have stock portfolios, don't panic, don't sell. If you could afford to hold out and not sell and you have high dividend stocks, hold out. Just, it's not going to be easy. Like I said, it'll probably be a rough next few months, but in the long run, it'll work out. And by long run, I mean, after 6 months to a year. That's number one. Number two,
do you think that time frame, just to interrupt you a second, do you think that time frame, I think your time frame's spot on because we know the midterms are going to be coming up. And do you think the Republicans would hold if things still don't improve by that point?
If the messaging is correct. So everything I've been told by key indicators and stuff, if there is going to be a recession, it'll be around June, July-ish. Now the June, July-ish, maybe August. The thing about recessions is by the time you're in one, you're already on your way out. So if it does hit around June, July, August, we'll be on our way out towards, economic freedom and economic prosperity. Yeah, I think they hold on one way or another because whether it be the economy, immigration, I think if the messaging is right out of the White House, they can play this thing off very, very well. If they get a budget through, if they start some spending cuts, if they start identifying and putting out in the public domain everything that's gone on in this country for the last 4.5 years, the American people, I think, will start to understand, as they have been. I mean, like I said, you look at these poll numbers now with Donald Trump, his job approval and everything like that. I think they'll hold on. So like I say, I give it 6 months, maybe 6 months, and we'll be on our way out of this. Now, I could be completely wrong, and I hope I am. And I hope this is just a momentary 1 month, 2 month thing, and we get this thing sorted out, which is what I think it's going to take Canada and Mexico to wake up and realize that they need us more than we need them. But after that, I think it's green grass and clear skies ahead for the Trump administration and for America. So hold on tight, folks. It's going to be bumpy before it gets smooth, but the smooth ride, I think, is going to be a lot longer than the bumpy road ahead.
Well, I'm looking forward to it because there's going to be plenty for us to talk about, and I can't wait to have you back on. Everyone needs to check out the Great America Show with John Fawcett. I'm going to have links up over at the P.A.S. Report website, PASreport.com. John, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Always a pleasure, Nick. I'll talk to you soon. And as always, I love having you on the Great America Show, and the audience loves you as well.
Thank you for listening to the P.A.S. Report. Don't forget to rate, share, and hit that subscribe button. That way you'll never miss an episode. For more exclusive content and updates, visit us at PASreport.com and follow Professor Giordano on all social media platforms at P.A.S. Report.